The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian, its domed ceiling displaying the swirling galaxies of known space. Representatives from 847 species sat in their designated atmospheric chambers, their various forms of communication, creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, telepathic waves, and electromagnetic pulses. At the center of it all, High Arbiter Zexthul's crystalline form pulsed with deep purple light as he addressed the assembly. His voice resonated through every translator in the hall, reaching species that breathed methane, others that existed as pure energy, and everything in between. Fellow members of the Galactic Council, Zexthul began, his words causing ripples of anticipation throughout the massive chamber. We have debated for 7 standard cycles. We have examined every piece of evidence. We have heard testimony from scouts, traders, and refugees who have encountered the species known as humans. A collective shudder passed through the assembly. Even the void dwellers, beings of pure darkness who feared nothing, seemed to recoil at the mention of that word. The motion before us is unprecedented, the High Arbiter continued. Never in our 40,000-year history has the Council voted unanimously on military action. Never have we faced a threat that required the combined might of every civilized species in the galaxy. In the observer's gallery, a lone figure watched through enhanced optical sensors. Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force had been monitoring Council transmissions for months. Her dark eyes narrowed as she processed the alien languages through her neural implant, her augmented hearing picking up the subtle harmonics that indicated fear in dozens of different species. The evidence is overwhelming, Zexthul declared, his form now blazing with urgent orange light. Humans are not merely another species to be catalogued and ignored. They are an existential threat to all intelligent life in the galaxy. The Hive Queen of Kepler 442b spoke next, her 1,000 voices harmonizing in perfect unison. They fight when they should surrender. They adapt when they should die. They unite when they should fragment. They are unnatural. Ambassador Kraz of the warrior caste of Rigel added his deep, rumbling voice. My people have conquered 600 worlds. We have never retreated from battle. Yet when we encountered human forces at the Proxima station, the massive reptilian being paused, his battle-scarred hide seeming to pale. We lost 12 dreadnoughts before we could retreat. 12 against a species that hadn't even achieved interstellar travel a century ago. Sarah's jaw tightened. She remembered Proxima Station. She'd been there, fighting alongside the 7th Fleet when the Rigelians had come to test humanity's defenses. The official casualty report had listed it as a victory, but she knew the truth. Earth had lost 30 ships and 8,000 crew members in that battle. The Rigelians had simply lost more. They do not follow the natural order, chittered the insectoid representative from the Centauri cluster. Species are meant to specialize. Hunters hunt, builders build, thinkers think. But humans, they are all things at once. It defies evolutionary logic. High Arbiter Zexthul raised one of his crystalline appendages, calling for silence. The motion is clear. Humanity represents a clear and present danger to galactic civilization. They must be contained or eliminated before they spread further into the galaxy. All in favor of joint military action against Earth and its colonies? Sarah held her breath as she watched the voting displays around the massive chamber. One by one, species that had never agreed on anything began to show their consent. The peaceful Etherians of the Veil Nebula, the neutral trade consortium of the Outer Rim, even the isolationist crystal mines of Arcturus. 847 species, 847 votes, all in favor. The motion carries, Zexthul announced, his voice echoing through the chamber with finality. Let it be recorded that on this day, the Galactic Council has voted unanimously for the first and likely last time in its history. Operation Final Solution is hereby authorized. Every species will contribute ships, weapons, and personnel. We will assemble the largest fleet in galactic history. Sarah's enhanced hearing picked up the whispered conversations in dozens of languages. "How many ships will we need?" asked the merchant prince of Vega Prime. "All of them," replied the war minister of the Andromedans. "Every last ship we can spare." "And if we fail?" This from the elderly representative of the long-lived ones. The chamber fell silent at this question. Finally, Zexthul spoke. "Then we die. But if we do nothing, we die anyway. At least this way, we die fighting." As the council began to disperse, Sarah activated her quantum communicator. The message she sent was brief, encrypted and marked with the highest priority codes. "This is Shadow 7 to Earth Command. The vote is in. It's unanimous. 847 species. They're coming for us with everything they have. Recommend immediate implementation of Project Lazarus. We're going to need every advantage we can get." The reply came back within seconds. "Message received, Shadow 7. Project Lazarus is already active. Tell our people out there to come home. All of them. It's time to remind the galaxy why evolution made us the way we are." Sarah smiled grimly as she watched the alien representatives filing out of the Great Hall, their various forms of communication buzzing with plans for humanity's destruction. They had no idea what they were about to face. They thought they knew humans. They thought they understood what made humanity dangerous. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Chapter 1. The Gathering Storm. 3 months later, Earth Defense Command, Luna Base. Admiral James Harrison stood before the largest holographic display ever constructed, watching as enemy fleet positions updated in real time across the three-dimensional map of local space. The display showed the Milky Way galaxy in stunning detail, with hundreds of thousands of red indicators representing hostile forces converging on the Sol system from every direction. "Status report," Harrison commanded, his weathered face reflecting the blue glow of the tactical display. "Sir," reported Commander Lisa Park, her fingers dancing across her control interface. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements from 47 different sectors. Conservative estimates put enemy numbers at over 2 million ships." 2 million, Harrison repeated quietly, the number settling in his stomach like cold lead. "How many do we have?" "Approximately 15,000 combat-ready vessels, sir, including civilian craft converted for military use." The other officers in the command center shifted uncomfortably. The mathematics were brutally simple. They were outnumbered more than 100 to 1. "What about the colonies?" asked General Maria Santos, the head of ground forces. "Tau Ceti, Proxima, Wolf 359. All civilian populations have been evacuated to Earth or the outer colonies," Park replied. "Our defensive installations are running skeleton crews. We've implemented the Scorched Earth Protocol on 17 worlds." Harrison nodded grimly. The Scorched Earth Protocol was humanity's last resort, completely destroying any colony that might be useful to the enemy. Better to leave nothing than to let it fall into alien hands. "Sir?" interrupted a young lieutenant at the communication station. "We're receiving a transmission on all frequencies. It's addressed to humanity." "Put it through," Harrison ordered. The central display flickered, and suddenly the command center was filled with the imposing presence of High Arbiter Zexthul. The crystalline being's form pulsed with what appeared to be satisfaction. "Greetings, humans of Earth," Zexthul began, his translated voice carrying an undertone of smugness. "I am High Arbiter Zexthul of the Galactic Council. By now, your primitive sensors have detected our approach. You face the combined might of 847 civilized species. 2,300,000 warships carry the righteous fury of the galaxy." Harrison's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. "Your species has been judged a threat to galactic peace and order," the High Arbiter continued. "Your unnatural aggression, your refusal to accept your place in the natural hierarchy, your disturbing adaptability, all of these mark you as a cancer that must be excised. However," and here Zexthul's form brightened slightly, "the Council is not without mercy. Surrender now, submit to genetic modification to remove your aggressive tendencies, and accept relocation to reservation worlds, and your species may survive. You have 72 hours to respond. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Well, Harrison said finally. That was direct. Sir, Commander Park said hesitantly, maybe we should consider what? Harrison's voice carried the authority of a man who had spent 40 years defending humanity. Surrender? Genetic modification? Becoming pets in alien zoos? With respect, sir, General Santos interjected, we're facing impossible odds, 2 million ships against 15,000. Maybe there's a way to negotiate. There is no negotiation, a new voice interrupted from the entrance to the command center. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the head of Project Lazarus, strode into the room carrying a sealed briefcase. They've made their decision. Now we make ours. Harrison turned to face the scientist. Dr. Vasquez was small, barely 5 feet tall, but her presence commanded respect. She had been working on humanity's most classified project for the past decade. Doctor, Harrison said, please tell me you have good news. I have the truth, Vasquez replied, setting her briefcase on the central console. And the truth is that these aliens have made a fundamental error in their assessment of humanity. She opened the briefcase, revealing a collection of data chips and what appeared to be biological samples. They think they know us, she continued. They've studied our history, our warfare, our expansion into space. They see us as aggressive, adaptable, unified in the face of threats. They're not wrong about any of that. Then what? General Santos began. What they don't understand, Vasquez interrupted, is why we're that way. They think it's a choice we make. They think it's a cultural development or a political decision. She activated a holographic display that showed a double helix of DNA. It's not. It's evolution. It's written into our genetic code at the most fundamental level. Every human carries the genes of survivors. We're not aggressive by choice. We're aggressive because every single one of our ancestors had to fight to survive in a world that was actively trying to kill them. The DNA display zoomed in, highlighting specific gene sequences, ice ages, volcanic eruptions, predators, diseases, disasters. For millions of years, Earth threw everything it had at our ancestors, and they not only survived, they thrived. They adapted. They overcame. Harrison studied the genetic data. What are you saying, Doctor? I'm saying that these aliens have never faced anything like us because nothing like us has ever existed before. They've evolved on stable worlds, in balanced ecosystems, with predictable challenges. We evolved in hell. She activated another display, this one showing comparative evolutionary data from dozens of species. Look at this. The average alien species faces maybe one extinction-level event every 100,000 years. Humans? We've survived 12 extinction-level events in the last 2 million years. Ice ages that lasted for millennia. Supervolcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun for decades. Asteroid impacts that would have wiped out most species. And each time, Commander Park said, understanding beginning to dawn in her voice, the survivors passed on their genes. Exactly, Vasquez confirmed. Natural selection didn't just favor the strong or the smart or the fast. It favored those who could adapt, who could work together, who would never give up. It favored those who could find a way to win against impossible odds. General Santos shook her head. That's all very interesting, Doctor, but it doesn't change the mathematics. We're still outnumbered 100 to 1. Dr. Vasquez smiled for the first time since entering the room. That's where Project Lazarus comes in. She inserted one of the data chips into the central console, and the entire display shifted to show detailed schematics of what appeared to be a massive space station. For the past 10 years, we've been preparing for this day. We've studied every encounter with alien forces. We've analyzed their tactics, their technology, their psychology, and we've built accordingly. The schematics rotated, revealing the true scale of the construction. It was enormous, larger than any space station humanity had ever built. This is Lazarus Station, Vasquez explained. Hidden in the asteroid belt, powered by a miniaturized fusion reactor, and equipped with technology that makes their ships look like ancient sailing vessels. What kind of technology? Harrison asked. The kind that only a species forged in evolutionary fire could conceive of, Vasquez replied. Weapons that adapt to enemy defenses in real time. Shields that get stronger the more energy they absorb. Ships that can repair themselves using nothing but space debris. She paused, letting the implications sink in. But most importantly, we've developed something they can't prepare for because they can't even imagine it. Which is? Dr. Vasquez's smile turned predatory. We've learned to weaponize the very thing that makes us human. Before anyone could ask what she meant, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. Contact, shouted the sensor operator. Multiple hyperspace emergent signatures throughout the system. They're here. Harrison turned to the tactical display, watching as thousands of red dots appeared around the outer edge of the Sol system. But these weren't the main fleet. These were scouts, advanced forces testing humanity's defenses. All stations, this is Admiral Harrison, he announced over the general communication channel. Operation Lazarus is now active. All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. As the command center burst into activity, Dr. Vasquez collected her briefcase. Where are you going? Harrison asked. To activate the real surprise, she replied. Admiral, you're about to see what 847 alien species have been afraid of since they first learned about us. She paused at the door. They wanted to see humanity at war. Let's show them what that really means. As Dr. Vasquez left the command center, the first wave of enemy scouts began their approach toward Earth. But hidden throughout the system, automated systems were coming online. Systems that had been waiting for this moment for 10 years. Systems that were about to teach the galaxy why human beings were the most dangerous species that had ever evolved. Chapter 2. First Contact Protocol. Sol System, Asteroid Belt. Lazarus Station. Captain Sarah Chen materialized on the bridge of Lazarus Station in a flash of blue light, her quantum teleportation leaving only a faint ozone smell in the recycled air. Around her, the most advanced command center humanity had ever built hummed with quiet efficiency. Report, she ordered, settling into the captain's chair that had been waiting for her for 3 months. All systems green, replied Commander Torres, her second in command. Stealth fields are holding at maximum efficiency. The enemy scouts are passing within 10,000 kilometers and showing no sign of detection. Sarah nodded, studying the tactical display that surrounded her chair in 3 dimensions. Lazarus Station was a marvel of human engineering, 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that existed nowhere else in human space, and completely invisible to conventional sensors. How many scouts are we tracking? She asked. 214 separate contacts, reported Lieutenant Kim from the sensor station. They're conducting systematic sweeps of the inner system. Looks like they're mapping our defensive positions before the main fleet arrives. And how long until that happens? Best estimate is 18 hours, Captain. Sarah leaned back in her chair, her enhanced neural implants processing tactical data at superhuman speed. The alien scouts were moving in predictable patterns, their technology advanced but following logical, systematic approaches to reconnaissance. It was exactly what Dr. Vasquez had predicted. Commander Torres, she said, activate the Prometheus array. Torres hesitated. Captain, are you sure? Once we activate Prometheus, there's no going back. They'll know we have capabilities they haven't seen before. They're going to find out anyway, Sarah replied. Better to learn something useful while we still can. Torres nodded and activated his console. Throughout the station, systems that had never been tested in combat began to come online. The Prometheus array was humanity's first attempt at creating technology that could adapt and evolve in real time. Based on principles learned from studying human neural plasticity, it was designed to analyze enemy technology and develop countermeasures faster than any static defense system could manage. Prometheus array is active, Torres reported. Beginning. Passive analysis of enemy ships. Captain, Lieutenant Kim called out, we're getting some interesting readings. These scout ships, They're not all the same species, Sarah frowned. Explain. The energy signatures are completely different. We've got crystalline technology, what looks like biological ships, some kind of plasma-based propulsion system, and at least 3 types of shielding I've never seen before. They're showing us their hand, Sarah realized. This isn't just reconnaissance, it's a demonstration. They want us to see the variety of technology we're facing. Psychological warfare, Torres agreed. Designed to make us despair before the real fight begins, Sarah smiled grimly. Then let's give them something to analyze in return. Lieutenant Kim, select the closest scout ship, something impressive looking. There's a Rigelian Dreadnought-class vessel about 8,000 kilometers, off the port bow. Shields are up, weapons are hot. Perfect. Commander Torres, prepare a welcome gift, something that will get their attention without revealing too much about our capabilities. Torres's fingers danced across his console. I recommend a level 3 demonstration, enough to show them we're not helpless, not enough to reveal our actual capabilities. Approved. Fire when ready. What happened next would be studied by military historians for centuries to come, assuming humanity survived long enough to have historians. The Lazarus station remained completely invisible as a single, pencil-thin beam of coherent energy lanced out toward the Rigelian scout ship. The beam passed through the alien vessel's shields as if they didn't exist, struck the hull with surgical precision, and carved a perfect spiral pattern into the armored surface. The message was clear. We see you. We can hit you whenever we want. We chose not to destroy you. Aboard the Rigelian vessel, alarms screamed as the crew tried to understand what had just happened. Captain, the sensor operator reported in the growling language of his species, I show no hostile contacts, no energy, signatures, no launch signatures, nothing. Captain Thexivore, a veteran of 100 battles, studied the damage report with growing unease. The spiral pattern carved into his ship's hull was exactly 7 meters in diameter, cut to a depth of precisely 10 centimeters. It was a demonstration of accuracy that no species in the galaxy could match. Status of shields? He demanded. Shields are at full power, Captain. Whatever hit us passed through them without causing any fluctuation. That's impossible. Yes, sir. But it happened. Thexivore activated his communication system. This is Scout Leader Thexivore to all units. Be advised, humans have demonstrated advanced weapon technology. Precision energy weapon of unknown type. Recommend caution in approach patterns. The response from the fleet commander was immediate. Negative, Scout Leader. Continue reconnaissance. As planned, you are not to be deterred by primitive human tricks. But Thexivore had been fighting wars since before most species achieved spaceflight. He knew the difference between a primitive trick and a demonstration of superior technology. All ships, he broadcast on the scout frequency, maintain maximum alert status. These humans may be more dangerous than intelligence reports suggested. Back on Lazarus Station, Sarah watched the alien response with satisfaction. They're confused, Lieutenant Kim reported. Increased communication traffic, erratic movement patterns. Some ships are maintaining distance, others are moving closer to investigate. Good, Sarah replied. Confusion is the first step toward fear. Commander Torres, are we getting useful data from the Prometheus array? More than we hoped for, Torres confirmed. The array is analyzing their shield frequencies, weapon signatures, propulsion systems. It's already identified 17 different technological approaches and is developing countermeasures for each. How long until the countermeasures are ready? For basic defensive measures, about 6 hours. For offensive capabilities, that depends on how much data we can gather. Sarah nodded. Then let's gather more data. Lieutenant Kim, select 3 more targets. Different species, different technology types. Captain, Torres said hesitantly, if we reveal too much of our capabilities, we're not revealing anything they won't see soon enough, Sarah replied. But we need to understand their technology before the main fleet arrives. Every piece of data we gather now could save thousands of lives later. She studied the tactical display, watching as the alien scouts continued their systematic sweep of the inner system. They were professional, thorough, and completely unprepared for what they were about to face. The aliens made one critical error in their assessment of humanity, she said quietly. They think we're dangerous because we're aggressive. They think we're threatening because we're unified. We're not? Torres asked. We are. But that's not what makes us dangerous. Sarah's voice carried the calm certainty of someone who had spent years studying human nature. What makes us dangerous is that we never stop adapting. Every challenge makes us stronger. Every enemy teaches us something new. She gestured toward the display showing the alien scout ships. They're out there right now thinking they're gathering intelligence on us. What they don't realize is that we're gathering intelligence on them. Every scan they run, every weapon they charge, every shield they activate, we're learning from it. And in 18 hours, when their main fleet arrives? Sarah's smile was predatory. In 18 hours, they're going to discover that the students have become the teachers. She activated the station-wide communication system. All personnel. This is Captain Chen. In less than 24 hours, we will face the largest military force in galactic history. 2 million ships carrying the combined might of nearly 1,000 species. They believe they are coming here to end the human threat once and for all. Her voice carried throughout the station, reaching every human aboard. They are wrong. They are not coming here to end us. They are coming here to learn why evolution made us the apex predators of Earth. They are coming here to discover what happens when you threaten the species that survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, and mass extinctions. She paused, letting her words sink in. In 18 hours, we will show them what human beings are truly capable of. We will show them why every single one of our ancestors earned the right to pass on their genes. We will show them why we are the children of survivors. Throughout the station, humans began final preparations for the battle that would determine the fate of their species. But unlike the alien forces approaching them, they were not afraid. They were ready. Chapter 3. The Human Response. 18 hours later, Sol System. The main alien fleet emerged from hyperspace in a display that would have been visible from Earth with the naked eye if anyone had been looking up at the night sky. 2,300,000 ships materialized in perfect formation across a sphere of space. 10 astronomical units in diameter, their combined mass greater than most planets. Admiral Harrison watched from Luna Base as the tactical display updated with contact after contact, each red dot representing a vessel capable of destroying entire cities. Final count, sir, Commander Park reported, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were witnessing. 2,307,412 hostile contacts. They're maintaining formation at the edge of the system. Any communication attempts? Harrison asked. Negative, sir. They're just waiting. Harrison studied the display. The alien fleet was arranged in concentric spheres, with the largest and most powerful ships on the outside, smaller vessels filling the gaps between them. It was a formation designed for maximum firepower and minimum vulnerability. Exactly the kind of strategy you'd expect from species that had never faced an enemy like humanity. Sir, the communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. It's High Arbiter Zexthul again. Put it through. The central display flickered, and once again, the crystalline form of the High Arbiter filled the command center. Humans of Earth, Zexthul began, his translated voice carrying a tone of finality. Your time for surrender has expired. We have given you every opportunity to submit to the will of the Galactic Council. You have chosen defiance. Harrison remained silent, knowing that anything he said would be used as propaganda by the alien forces. Behold the might of civilized space. The High Arbiter continued, and the display shifted to show the massive alien fleet in all its terrible glory. 2 million ships, 847 species united in purpose. The combined military might of a galaxy that has known peace for 40,000 years. The image shifted again, focusing on Earth itself, beautiful and blue against the black of space. You have built your civilization on violence and conquest. You have spread your aggressive nature to other worlds. You have refused to accept your place in the natural order. For these crimes against galactic peace, your species has been judged and found wanting. Harrison's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. However, and here Zexthal's form brightened with what might have been mercy, we are not without compassion. Surrender now and your deaths will be swift. Resist and we will demonstrate why your species should have accepted our original offer. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in tense silence. Well, Harrison said finally, I suppose that's clear enough. He activated the fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, all stations. This is Admiral Harrison. You've heard their offer. You know what's at stake. The question before us now is simple. Do we die on our knees, or do we die on our feet? The response was immediate and unanimous. From every ship, every station, every outpost in the system came the same reply. On our feet, sir. Harrison smiled, grimly. Then let's show them what that looks like. Captain Chen, you are authorized to begin Operation Lazarus. All ships, prepare for battle. Deep in the asteroid belt, Sarah Chen received the authorization she had been waiting for. All stations, she announced throughout Lazarus Station, this is Captain Chen. Operation Lazarus is now active. Begin Phase 1 implementation. Throughout the station, systems that had been designed in secret and built over the course of a decade came online. The Prometheus array expanded its analysis capabilities, focusing on the massive alien fleet. The adaptive defense grid began calculating optimal response patterns for 2 million different targets, and deep in the station's core, the evolutionary engine started its work. The evolutionary engine was humanity's greatest achievement, a quantum computer system that could simulate millions of possible combat scenarios in real time, learning from each simulation and adapting human tactics accordingly. It was based on the same principles that had allowed humanity to survive 12 extinction events: constant adaptation, relentless innovation, and the refusal to accept defeat. Commander Torres, Sarah said, status of the engine? Fully operational. Captain, it's already run through 500,000 combat scenarios and is optimizing our tactical approach based on enemy fleet composition. And what's it telling us? Torres studied his display, his expression growing increasingly amazed. It's actually confident, Captain. Against 2 million ships, the engine is projecting a 67% probability of human victory. Sarah raised an eyebrow. 67%? Against those odds? The engine's analysis indicates that the aliens have made several critical errors in their approach. They're treating this as a conventional military engagement, but they're facing an unconventional enemy. Explain. They've brought overwhelming force, but they're not prepared for asymmetric warfare. They're expecting us to meet them in open battle, fleet against fleet. They're not expecting us to fight like humans. Sarah smiled. And how do humans fight? Like survivors, Captain. Like the descendants of species that learned to hunt mammoth with nothing but sticks and stones. She activated the ship-wide communication system. All personnel, this is Captain Chen. The enemy has shown us their hand. 2 million ships, representing the combined might of nearly 1,000 species. They believe they have brought enough force to crush us completely. Her voice carried throughout the station, reaching every human aboard. They are correct about one thing. They have brought enough force to destroy us in a conventional engagement. But they have made one critical error in their calculations. She paused, studying the tactical display that showed the massive alien fleet. They assume we will fight like they do. They assume we will meet them in open battle, matching ship against ship, weapon against weapon. They assume we will play by the rules of civilized warfare. Her smile became predatory. They are about to learn that the children of Earth don't fight fair. Throughout the station, humans began implementing tactics that had been developed over millions of years of evolutionary warfare. Tactics that had allowed their ancestors to hunt predators larger than themselves, to survive in environments that should have killed them, to thrive in conditions that would have destroyed any other species. Phase 1 is complete, Torres reported. All systems are online and operating at peak efficiency. Begin Phase 2, Sarah ordered. What happened next would be remembered as the moment humanity revealed its true nature to the galaxy. The alien fleet, confident in its overwhelming superiority, began its advance toward Earth. Their formation was perfect, their coordination flawless, their firepower incomparable. They never saw the attacks coming. Throughout the asteroid belt, rocks that had been floating in space for billions of years suddenly came alive. Each asteroid had been carefully prepared, hollowed out and filled with human technology, then sent into carefully calculated orbits that would intersect with the alien fleet's advance. But these weren't bombs or missiles. They were something far more sophisticated, something that no species in the galaxy had ever conceived of. They were evolution in action. Each asteroid contained a self-replicating manufacturing system that could analyze alien technology and immediately begin producing countermeasures. When the alien sensors detected them, they appeared to be nothing more than space debris. But the moment alien weapons fired on them, they adapted. The first wave of alien fire destroyed several asteroids completely, just as expected. But the surviving asteroids analyzed the weapons that had destroyed their companions and began producing shields specifically designed to counter those exact weapons. The second wave of alien fire was less effective. The third wave barely scratched the asteroid's surfaces. By the fourth wave, the asteroids were firing back. "Contact!" shouted the sensor operator aboard the Rigelian flagship. "We're taking fire from the asteroid belt." Fleet Commander Krathvon studied his displays in growing alarm. "That's impossible. Our sensors show nothing but space debris." "The debris is shooting at us, sir." As if to emphasize the point, the flagship's shields flared as energy beams from a dozen different asteroids struck the ship's hull. "Damage report." "Minimal damage, sir. But the asteroids appear to be learning. Each shot is more accurate than the last." Krathvon activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Fleet Command. We are facing some kind of adaptive defense system. Maintain formation and continue advance. Focus fire on any asteroid showing signs of activity." But even as he spoke, more asteroids throughout the belt were coming online, and each one was learning from the experiences of its predecessors. On Lazarus Station, Sarah watched the battle unfold with satisfaction. "Phase 2 is proceeding as planned," Torres reported. "The evolutionary defense network is functioning perfectly. Each asteroid that's destroyed passes its combat data to the others. How many asteroids do we have active?" "Approximately 50,000, with more coming online every minute." Sarah nodded. 50,000 asteroids, each one capable of adapting to alien weapons in real time, each one learning from the destruction of its companions. It was evolution at the speed of thought, the same process that had created humanity, compressed into minutes instead of millennia. "Begin Phase 3, she ordered. Throughout human space, ships that had been hiding in the shadows of planets behind asteroid fields and in the depths of gas-giant atmospheres began to move. But these weren't conventional warships. They were human warships. And human warships didn't fight fair. The alien fleet was about to learn the difference between civilized warfare and human warfare, and the lesson was going to be painful. Chapter 4. Evolution Under Fire. Sol System, Battle Zone. The alien fleet's advance had slowed to a crawl as more and more asteroids came online, each one adapted to counter whatever weapons had been used against its predecessors. Fleet Commander Krathvon watched his tactical display with growing unease as his perfectly coordinated battle formation began to fracture under the constant harassment from what should have been empty space. "Status report," he demanded. "Sir," his tactical officer reported. "We've destroyed approximately 2,000 of the hostile asteroids, but 17,000 more have come online in the past hour. Our weapons are becoming less effective with each engagement. How is that possible? The asteroids appear to be sharing combat data. Each one we destroy teaches the others how to defend against our weapons." Krathvon's reptilian features twisted in frustration. In 40 years of military service, he had never encountered an enemy that became stronger through defeat. "Recommendations? Switch to projectile weapons, sir. Physical impacts should be more effective than energy weapons." "Approved. All ships, switch to kinetic bombardment." Throughout the massive alien fleet, energy weapons powered down and mass drivers came online. Tungsten projectiles, each one traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, began streaking toward the active asteroids. The results were immediately apparent. Asteroids that had adapted to resist energy weapons were torn apart by physical impacts, their adaptive shields useless against solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. "Excellent," Krathvan said with satisfaction. "Continue bombardment. Destroy every piece of debris larger than a shuttle." But even as he spoke, the remaining asteroids were adapting once again. The first kinetic impacts had destroyed hundreds of them, but the survivors had analyzed the attack and were already implementing countermeasures. Electromagnetic fields designed to deflect incoming projectiles. Point defense systems that could intercept and destroy kinetic rounds before impact. And most disturbing of all, some asteroids began launching their own kinetic projectiles in response. "Sir," the tactical officer called out in alarm, "the asteroids are firing back with our own tactics." Krathvan watched in horror as his fleet began taking casualties from weapons that used the exact same principles as their own kinetic bombardment systems. But there was something different about the asteroid projectiles. They were more accurate, faster, and seemed to adjust their trajectory mid-flight. "How are they doing that?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. The projectiles appear to be guided, but we're detecting no control signals." What the alien fleet couldn't understand was that each projectile was a miniature artificial intelligence, capable of learning and adapting during flight. It was the same principle that had allowed human ancestors to become the most successful hunters on Earth, the ability to adapt strategy in real time based on the behavior of their prey. On Lazarus Station, Sarah watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. "The evolutionary defense network is exceeding all projections," Torres reported. "We've lost about 30% of our asteroid platforms, but the survivors are now significantly more effective than when we started." "Casualties on the alien side?" "Approximately 40,000 ships destroyed or disabled. Their advance has stopped completely while they try to adapt to our tactics." Sarah nodded. 40,000 enemy ships destroyed, and the battle had barely begun. But she knew this was just the opening move. The real test would come when the aliens began to adapt their own tactics. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim called out, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from the alien fleet. They're powering up something big. Show me." The tactical display zoomed in on the center of the alien formation, where the largest ships were positioned. Energy readings were off the charts as dozens of massive vessels began charging weapons that dwarfed anything humanity had ever seen. "Planet killers," Torres breathed. "They're preparing to use planet killer weapons." Sarah's blood ran cold. Planet killers were exactly what they sounded like. Weapons capable of destroying entire worlds. If the aliens were willing to use them in the Sol system, "They're not targeting Earth," Kim reported, studying the energy signatures. "They're targeting the asteroid belt itself, all of it. They're going to sterilize the entire belt," Torres realized. "Destroy every asteroid, every piece of debris. Wipe out our entire defensive network in one attack." Sarah's mind raced through the possibilities. The evolutionary defense network had been designed to adapt to conventional weapons, but planet killer class weapons operated on a completely different scale. There was no adapting to something that could vaporize matter at the atomic level. "Time to weapon discharge?" she asked. 18 minutes, Kim replied. Sarah activated the emergency communication channel. "All stations, this is Captain Chen. The enemy is preparing to deploy planet killer weapons against the asteroid belt. Initiate Phase 4 immediately. All personnel, prepare for emergency evacuation procedures." But even as she spoke, Sarah knew there wasn't enough time to evacuate everyone. Lazarus Station was hidden in the asteroid belt, and if the aliens succeeded in their attack, everyone aboard would die. "Captain," Torres said quietly, "there is another option." Sarah looked at him. "The Omega Protocol?" "It's the only way to save the fleet and protect Earth." The Omega Protocol was humanity's most desperate contingency plan. A tactic so extreme that it had never been tested, only theorized. It would mean sacrificing Lazarus Station and everyone aboard, but it might give humanity the advantage it needed to win the war. "Ma'am," Kim interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Harrison." "Put it through." Harrison's face appeared on the display, his expression grim. "Captain Chen, we're tracking the planet killer weapons. You have less than 20 minutes before they fire. I know, sir. I'm requesting authorization for the Omega Protocol. Harrison was silent for a long moment. Captain, you know what that means. Yes, sir. But it's the only way to ensure humanity's survival. Another pause. How certain are you that it will work? The evolutionary engine projects a 93% probability of success, sir. Harrison nodded slowly. Then you have my authorization. Captain, it's been an honor serving with you. The honor has been mine, sir. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with her crew and the weight of the decision before her. She activated the ship-wide communication system. All personnel, this is Captain Chen. I have just received authorization for the Omega Protocol. You all know what this means. In approximately 15 minutes, we will implement humanity's final contingency plan. Her voice carried throughout the station, reaching every human aboard. We are about to do something that no species in galactic history has ever attempted. We are about to demonstrate why human beings are the most dangerous species that evolution ever produced. She paused, looking around at the faces of her crew, men and women who had volunteered for a mission they knew might be their last. Our ancestors survived ice ages that lasted for millennia. They survived supervolcanoes that blocked out the sun. They survived asteroid impacts that killed the dinosaurs. They survived because they never gave up, never stopped fighting, never accepted defeat. Her voice grew stronger. Today, we honor their memory. Today, we show the galaxy what it means to be human. Today, we teach them why our species earned the right to reach for the stars. Throughout the station, humans began implementing the final phase of Project Lazarus, systems that had been designed in absolute secrecy, based on principles that no other species could even comprehend, came online for the first and last time. Omega Protocol is active, Torres reported. All systems are responding within parameters. How long until the aliens fire? Sarah asked. 12 minutes. Then let's not keep them waiting. Begin final sequence. What happened next would be studied by xenobiologists for millennia, assuming any of them survived to do the studying. The Omega Protocol was based on a simple principle that had been observed in human behavior since the dawn of recorded history. When faced with extinction, humans didn't just fight harder, they fought smarter. They innovated, they adapted, they found ways to win that their enemies couldn't even imagine. But the Omega Protocol took this principle to its logical extreme. Instead of just adapting to the enemy's tactics, humanity was about to adapt the enemy's tactics. All personnel to escape pods, Sarah ordered. We have 8 minutes. But even as her crew began evacuating, Sarah remained at her post. Someone had to stay behind to implement the final phase, and as captain, that responsibility was hers. Captain, Torres said, refusing to leave. I'm staying with you. That's an order, Commander. With respect, ma'am, I'm not taking orders from a dead woman. Sarah smiled despite the situation. Then I guess we're both dead. Around them, Lazarus Station began to transform. The entire structure was reconfiguring itself. Systems that had been designed for defense now being repurposed for something that had never been attempted before. 6 minutes to alien weapon discharge, Kim reported, also refusing to evacuate. 5 minutes to Omega implementation, Torres added. Sarah watched the countdown displays, knowing that the next few minutes would determine the fate of humanity. Either the Omega Protocol would work, or the human species would be remembered only as a footnote in galactic history. All stations report ready, Kim announced. Alien weapons are charging to maximum power, Torres added. Sarah took a deep breath. Initiate Omega Protocol. Show them what humans are really capable of. And in that moment, as planet-killer weapons prepared to fire and humanity faced extinction, Sarah Chen pressed a button that would change the course of galactic history. The button that would teach the universe why evolution had created human beings. The button that would demonstrate what happened when you threatened the children of Earth. Epilogue. The New Galactic Order. 6 months later, New Geneva, Earth. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood before the assembled representatives of what remained of the Galactic Council, her small frame commanding attention in the vast chamber that had once been used for human diplomatic conferences. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same species that had been condemned as a threat to galactic civilization was now hosting peace negotiations. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of various classifications," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation devices that allowed hundreds of different species to understand her words. "6 months ago, your combined fleets came to our system with the intention of exterminating humanity. Today, you sit in our chambers, asking for terms of surrender." The assembled aliens shifted uncomfortably in their atmospheric suits and environmental chambers. Gone was the arrogant certainty they had displayed at the original council vote. In its place was something that most of them had never experienced before: fear. High Arbiter Zexthul, his crystalline form now flickering with patterns that indicated deep distress, spoke for the delegation. "Dr. Vasquez, we did not understand. Our intelligence was incomplete." "Your intelligence was perfect," Vasquez replied calmly. "You understood exactly what humanity was capable of based on our known technology and tactics. What you failed to understand was our capacity for adaptation." She activated a holographic display that showed the Sol system as it existed now. Fundamentally, changed from what it had been 6 months earlier. "The Omega Protocol," she continued, "was based on a simple principle that any student of human evolution could have predicted. When faced with extinction, humans don't just fight back, we evolve." The display showed what remained of the alien fleet, less than 10% of the original 2 million ships. The rest had been destroyed, captured, or converted to human use through methods that the surviving aliens still couldn't fully comprehend. "Your planet-killer weapons," Vasquez explained, "were designed to destroy matter at the atomic level. You assumed that nothing could survive such an attack." She smiled, and several alien representatives visibly recoiled. "You were correct. Nothing could survive such an attack, so we didn't try to survive it." The display shifted, showing the moment when the Omega Protocol had been implemented. Lazarus Station, instead of trying to resist the planet-killer weapons, had done something unprecedented in galactic history. It had absorbed them. "The Omega Protocol converted our entire defensive network into a single massive organism," Vasquez continued. "Not mechanical, not biological, but something entirely new. Something that could consume energy weapons and use that energy to replicate itself." The aliens in the chamber had heard this explanation before, but it still sent ripples of fear through the assembly. The idea of matter that could evolve in real time, adapting not just to weapons but actually feeding on them, was beyond their comprehension. "When your planet-killer weapons fired," Vasquez said, "they provided our system with enough energy to convert half the asteroid belt into adaptive matter, matter that could think, learn, and reproduce." The display showed the terrifying aftermath, a expanding cloud of intelligent matter that had swept through the alien fleet, analyzing each ship's technology and either destroying it or converting it to human use. "Captain Chen and her crew," Vasquez said softly, "made the ultimate sacrifice to save our species. They allowed themselves to be absorbed by the adaptive matter, providing it with human consciousness and directing its evolution." There was a long silence in the chamber. Finally, Ambassador Kraz of the Rigelian Empire spoke, his voice heavy with defeat. "What are your terms?" Vasquez studied the assembled representatives, beings from across the galaxy who had come to Earth expecting to witness humanity's destruction, and instead found themselves negotiating for their own survival. "Our terms are simple," she said. "First, all hostilities against human worlds and installations will cease immediately. Second, all species represented here will provide full technical and scientific data about their civilizations. Third, the Galactic Council will be dissolved and replaced with a new organization that includes human representation." "And if we refuse?" asked the Hive Queen of Kepler, 442b. Vasquez gestured toward the display, which now showed the current extent of the adaptive matter field, a sphere of space nearly 2 light-years in diameter and still growing. "Then you'll join the previous Galactic Council in extinction," she said matter-of-factly. The adaptive matter is still spreading, still learning, still growing. We can control it, direct it, even communicate with it. But if humanity is threatened, again, she let the implication hang in the air. You see, she continued, you made one final error in your assessment of our species. You thought that defeating us would end the human threat. What you failed to understand is that humans are most dangerous when they're dead. High Arbiter Zexthol's form pulsed with what his species used to indicate confusion. We don't understand. Captain, Chen and her crew didn't die in the Omega Protocol, Vasquez explained. They became something new, something that combines human consciousness with the ability to evolve at the speed of thought. They exist now as part of the adaptive matter field, and they remember every species that tried to destroy humanity. The implications of this statement sent waves of terror through the assembled aliens. Dr. Vasquez, Zexthul said desperately, surely there must be some way to coexist. Some compromise that... There is, Vasquez interrupted. Accept our terms. Join the new Galactic Order. Help us build a civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. She paused, studying the faces and forms of the alien representatives. Your species have had 40,000 years of peace. You've grown comfortable, predictable, stagnant. Humanity offers you something you've never had before, the chance to evolve again. And if we agree to your terms? Asked the elderly representative of the long-lived ones. Then you become part of something unprecedented in galactic history, Vasquez replied. A truly interspecies civilization, guided by the principles that allowed humanity to survive on Earth. Adaptation, innovation, the refusal to accept defeat. She smiled, and this time the aliens didn't recoil. You came here to destroy the human threat, she said. Instead, you're going to discover what it means to be human. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. 847 species, speaking through their surviving representatives, agreed to humanity's terms. Later, as the alien delegations filed out of the chamber to begin the process of creating a new galactic order, Dr. Vasquez stood alone, looking out at the stars. Captain Chen, she said quietly, knowing that somewhere in the adaptive matter field that now surrounded Earth, her old friend was listening. I think you'd be proud of what we've accomplished. The response came not in words, but in a subtle shift in the starlight, a pattern that spelled out a simple message in the quantum fluctuations of space itself. We are all human now. And somewhere in the depths of space, the adaptive matter field continued to grow, carrying with it the consciousness of every human who had ever lived and died defending their species. They were the children of survivors, the descendants of Earth, the guardians of a new galactic civilization. They were humanity's greatest achievement and its final gift to the universe. Proof that evolution never stops, that adaptation never ends, and that the species that had learned to thrive in hell would never be conquered. The galaxy had wanted to see what humans were capable of. Now they would spend eternity learning the answer, the end.